Origins and the Fall. Approximately 560 million years ago, upon the planet Terra within the second harmonic universe, and Earth is presently in the first harmonic universe, many extraterrestrials and metaterrestrial races combined their genetic and energetic makeup to create a master race of beings that would serve as guardians of the planet Terra. The Syrian Council of the Harmonic Universe II, along with several other groups, were appointed as directors and overseers of the project of Terranism 1, which is also called T1 experiment. Metaterrestrials from the fourth and fifth harmonic universes were the founders of this project, working through a seed race called the Lyrians from the third harmonic universe. The Lyrians created a race of beings in Harmonic Universe 3 called the Elohim, who would become overseers of the Syrian races in Harmonic Universe 2. The Elohim became one of the numerous supervisor groups within the Terranism experiment due to the Syrian race contribution of genetic identity to the experiment. The Terranism race evolved for about 8 million years on Terra, with 12 primary subracial divisions among them. Each of the 12 Terranism sub-races carried a genetic slant derived from the 12 primary contributors to the T1 experiment, but all of them carried the unique 12-strand DNA package the T1s were designed to embody. The 12 Terranism subraces were the Brahman, Duraman, Atani, Trinitine, Azerton, Celtos, Adamai, Uterines, Luri, Siraz, Nezak, Tai, and the Melchizedeks. After evolving successfully for many years, the Terranism race began to digress, their genetic code breaking down and their cultures falling into disharmony. Manipulation by interbreeding with various unrelated ET strains was the primary cause of this digression. About 8 million years into their evolution, which is 552 million years ago, the Terranism race divided into two primary racial strains: the Alanians, and sometimes referred to as the Bellicudium, and the Lumians, frequently called the Adamai Kudmin. The two strains of the Terranism evolved together on one large landmass called Eden, creating two cultures known as Alania and Lumia. Both cultures evolved on Terra for about 1 million years. Both races carried the original 12-strand DNA genetic code of their Terranism lineage, and both carried mutations and digressions of that code from interstellar breeding. Cultural disturbances escalated, along with the continued digression of the Alanian and the Lumian strains, and hostility arose as the Alanians sought dominion over the more passive Lumian culture. Mu, the Lumians series, and the priesthood of Mu. Keeping a close eye on their Alanian antagonists about 750,000 million years ago, certain members of the Lumian race foresaw a cataclysm in their future and brought on by increasingly dangerous Alanian experimentation with power generation through Terra's planetary core. The Lumians petitioned assistance from the Harmonic Universe 2, Syrian Council, and the Harmonic Universe 3, Elohim. Under direction of the Syrian Council, the Lumians set up amongst their members an organization called the Council of Mu. Through the Council of Mu, the Lumians moved large numbers of their race across the oceans to a small continent on Terra that was primarily uninhabited by organized culture. They named this continent Mu, and for 50,000 years, which is 550,750,000 years, the Lumians of Mu worked with Syrian Council to redirect the genetic digression of their race. And during this period of Elohim of Harmonic Universe 3 interbred with Lumians, who carried the Seraz Terranism sub-race strain in their genetic codes, creating a race called Ceres, and that is spelled Ceres, and which purified the genetic strain of the Lumians of Terra. Descendants of the Ceres later became known as the Seres, and that is spelled Seres. You can see how they change spellings and things, and it can confuse people. This is why I'm spelling it out. The Ceres who interacted with Harmonic Universe 1 Earth humans at various periods. And so the Lumens and the Ceres with the C coexisted peacefully on Mu, attending to their intergalactic and spiritual business of Council of Mu. The Ceres created the priesthood of Mu, an egalitarian spiritual collective with strong matriarchal slant, whose practices centered around the teachings of the sacred law of one, or unity consciousness. The Mu priesthood exists to this day and is primary motivating force within certain Terran communities. The community of Mu continued its evolution through the realigned 12-strand DNA gene code until about 550 million years ago. Alania, Templar, Solar Initiates, and the Syrian Rebellion. Throughout the evolution of Mu, digression continue with the Alanian race, and anti-Lumian sentiment ran high within the power-hungry Alanian elite. The Alanians employed subterranean grid technologies in hopes of bringing the now bountiful continent of Mu under Alanian domain. The Lumians in the series foresaw the cataclysm of Terra that would result from these technologies about 900 years prior to the events. The series tried to warn the Alanians to no avail. Petitions to the Syrian Council to redirect the Alanians had failed, giving rise to the Alanian Rebellion and Lumian Syrian resistance. The Alanians were controlled by an elite group called the Templar Solar Initiates, who had been entrusted with rulership and guardianship over the Alanian continent by the Syrian councils, and the Templar Solar Initiates became sympathetic with the Syrian root race Anunnaki in their Syrian rebellion against the Syrian council, and refused to follow dictates of the Syrian council and advisory Elohim, who based their decisions on the teachings of the sacred law of one. And through the Templar Solar Initiates, the power struggle between the Syrian Anunnaki and Elohim Syrian Council loyal Syrian, considered Blues, another Syrian root race, was brought to Terra. This period in Atlantean history is known as the Syrian Rebellion, and through this power struggle, planet Terra was almost destroyed. Terranians, Mu, and the Priest of Earth. Certain groups of the Atlanteans became aware that the Templar Solar Initiates were misusing power in a way that would result in the implosion of Terra's planetary grid. This group of Atlanteans approached the Lumians and series of Mu asking for assistance, and many of them defected to the territories of Mu. The series interbred with these Atlanteans, primarily those carrying the Utarian Terranism sub-race genetic line, realigning their digressing genetic code, and these Atlanteans further interbred with the Lumians. The original Terranism 12-strain DNA gene code was rebuilt and purified through the series Lumian-Atlantean blend. This revitalized Terranism race and became known as the Terranians. The Terranians created the temple of the priesthood of upon the continent of Mu. The priesthood of shared most practices of the priests of Mu, but developed interest in more scientific applications of spiritual law, such as portal mechanics. Like the priesthood of Mu, the priests of exist on Terra to this day, and they serve as guardians and gatekeepers of the time portal structures that link Earth to present-day Terra. During the Syrian rebellion on Terra, the priesthood of stood against the Templar solar initiates of Alania, eventually retreating underground with the people of Mu, unable to stop the Templars from misusing the power of the planetary core. Small wars within the local galactic sectors were fought during these times, which became known as the Taran Wars. Under direction of the Syrian Council and Elohim, the priests of began to prepare for the pending grid implosion. Many people were evacuated to their other sympathetic star systems, where they evolved safely, intermingling with other races. Cataclysm of Terra, approximately 550 million years ago, the power generator crystals deep underground in Alania exploded due to the Templar solar initiates' misuse of power from Terra's planetary core. This created a chain reaction of implosions within Terra's planetary grid. Portions of Terra's grid were blown apart, fragmented, and became detached from the morphogenetic field of the planet. Portions of Alania were immediately destroyed, and the entire planet suffered the effects of rapid pole reversal. For a period of 2 days, Terra ceased to rotate on its axis. It took 10,000 years to restabilize Terra's environment, during which time the few surviving Terran races still on planet retreated permanently underground. Descendants of those civilizations who survived this disaster still flourished within elaborate underground communities. Surface life also returned to Terra following this 10,000-year period of healing. Because portions of the planet's energy structure had been ripped from the main planetary grid, planet Terra could not continue its evolution of dimensional ascension into the third harmonic universe. Terra could not reemerge with the energy grid of its Dimension 7 counterpart Gaia until its own grid system was repaired. Terra became trapped in the tracks of time within the second harmonic universe. I'm going to digress and tell you about a dream I had, because I have memory of the fall of Terra. And this is a very emotional story for me because I remember falling. So in my dream that I had when I was about 21, I was in Vegas with my sister. In my dream, I was dreaming I was in Vegas while I was actually in Vegas. And we were in a store in my dream. And all of a sudden, I felt the earth falling. And I looked outside and it was dark. And I said to everyone in the store, the Earth's axis just broke and we were tumbling in space. This was my dream I had when I was 21. And so learning about the fall of Terra puts all the pieces together. And I've shared this with others before, and people have contacted me because they have had similar dreams. They have felt this falling. And so that's why I'm bringing it up, because maybe you have had a similar dream or an experience, or maybe this resonates with you and you feel an emotional response would be maybe chills. You get full body chills. And so if it does resonate, and this could be a possibility that this is a memory that you do hold near and dear to your heart, because what happened with the fall of Terra, this cataclysm, is pretty devastating. Thank you. The fall to harmonic universe 1 of the 12 planets. The fragments of the Terran planetary grid that became dismembered from the Terra's core energy supply rapidly fell in vibration until they could no longer resist the natural magnetic pull of the descending interdimensional energy currents. The planet fragments were pulled into the sun within Terra's universe, vaporized, and the morphogenetic field carrying in those fragments was pulled into a black hole at the center of the sun and re-emerged into a galaxy within the lower dimensional fields of harmonic universe 1. Entering this system as gaseous substance, this morphogenetic field broke down into 12 pieces, which set up a mini solar system around a star within an already existing harmonic universe 1 solar system. One of the 12 pieces of Terra's fragmented morphogenetic field fused with this sun, while the other 11 other pieces began to build up matter density and re-manifest their forms through their portion of the morphogenetic field. These planets did not birth into existence in the usual accretion fashion, where they carried with them the organizational imprint, a part of Terra's planetary grid morphogenetic field. These planets did not birth into harmonic universe 1. They fell into it, literally. Their original morphogenetic field fell in vibration, reorganized through the morphogenetic field of a star, and remanifested within a slower vibrating dimensional scale. The 12 new planets entering harmonic universe 1 are the planets of our local solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Maldek, which imploded to become the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Nibiru, very long orbit for Nibiru and not yet discovered by Earth scientists, and our Sun, which is part of Terra's morphogenetic field that fused with this already existing non-Terran Sun. The fragments of Terra became part of the unified field morphogenetic structure of harmonic universe 1. The fall of man and the lost souls of Alania. The event of Terra's cataclysm became known as the fall of man. This history became interwoven with other events on Earth that occurred since that time, appearing in various forms throughout human mythology. The Adam and Eve drama of biblical stories combined this event as a fall from God's grace and removal from the Garden of Eden with other earthly events, including the Dracon infiltration of around 1 million years ago. The stories became a deception of multi-level events from various time periods woven together into a symbolic event portrayed in these stories. This was also done in relation to the biblical flood and Noah. The consciousness of beings who were blown apart in Terra's fall also fell in harmonic universe 1. They became ripped from their race morphogenetic field at Terra's core and disengaged from their original soul matrices through which they needed to evolve in order to pass out of time matrix and dimensional systems and return to source as pure consciousness. The souls of Alania became trapped in time, fragmented as units of consciousness within the unified field of harmonic universe 1, and there they would have remained if a rescue mission had not been orchestrated. Amenti rescue mission, the Covenant of Pallador and the Palladorians of Terra. Just prior to the cataclysm on Terra 550 million years ago, the Ceres, Uranians, and the Lumians of Mu devised a plan to rescue the Terran souls that would be lost in harmonic universe 1 during the approaching disaster. Being skilled at time portal mechanics and interdimensional portal travel, the Ceres created a plan that the Uranians would fulfill. With the assistance of the Syrian Council, Elohim, and Harmonic Universe 2 Palladians, the Uranians formed an agreement with several other Harmonic Universe 2 races called the Covenant of Pallador. Through the Covenant of Pallador, a rescue mission for the Terran souls of Harmonic Universe 1 was set in motion. Those involved in this agreement, the Syrians, Palladians, Uranians, Elohim, Lyrians, Ceres with the C, Lumians, and the Alanians, became known as the Palladorians. Working through the Brina Rishi beings of pure consciousness from Harmonic Universe 5, which is the primal light field, The Palladorians petitioned further assistance from an entity gestalt within the metagalactic core. This entity is known as Ra, or the Ra Confederacy. Of the 12 primary identity gestalts within the Ra Confederacy, members of its 4 largest gestalts became involved and allowed for the rescue mission to take place. The 4 primary members of the Ra Confederacy involved within the Covenant of the Pallador are the Azurites, Atene, Ammonites, and the Brigitte. A subgroup of the Brigitte are presently incarnating in our Earth system as members of the Ascended Masters families of the Viragi. Several other groups associated with these 3 gestalts are also involved with the Earth at this time, including the Consciousness Gestalt, Azara, and Harmonic Universe 2 ET races known as the Tsar Confederacy. Time travel and the Sphere of Amenti. Using interdimensional portal mechanics, Ur-Terranians of the Covenant of Pallador time traveled into Harmonic Universe 1 to a time-space coordinate positioned after the cataclysm of Terra and the fall of man. Once on Earth, with the help of the Syrian Council, this group of Ur-Terranians transmuted their body forms into pure energy, which is Keylontic science, and merged into a Gestalt energy field of consciousness, which served as a morphogenetic field, or the 12-strand DNA Terranism race prototype. Also contained within this morphogenetic field were the Keylontic time codes, which are electrotonal frequency patterns of the pre-cataclysm time-space coordinates of Terra, which would allow Terra to reassemble the lost portions of its grid into the fabric of time. With the assistance of the Ra Confederacy, this gestalt of consciousness genetic planetary morphogenetic field was entered into the remaining morphogenetic field of Earth through the 11th and 14th dimensions. This morphogenetic field of consciousness energetically took on the shape of a sphere and was called the Sphere of Amenti, named after the portion of Terra's morphogenetic field that contained the imprint for Mu and its inhabitants. Amenti was part of Terra's planetary core that connected energetically to the portals upon the continent of Mu. By placing the Sphere of Amenti within the Earth's core, a wormhole or portal link was established between Earth's core in Dimension 2 and Terra's core in Dimension 5. Now, Dimension 2 is part of Harmonic Universe 1, which holds Dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Terra's core in Dimension 5 is in Harmonic Universe 2. Harmonic Universe 2 holds the Dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Though numerous other portals between Earth and Terra existed, these had become unstable and their operations unpredictable following the fall. The Sphere of Amenti would create a stable portal structure that, once operational, would stabilize the other portals and allow open transit between Earth and Terra for beings possessing genetic codes that would endure portal transit. The Sphere of Amenti would link into the space-time of Terra's pre-fall past, with this sphere placed within the Earth, and as Earth revolved through dimensional ascension back into Terra's grid, following the morphogenetic imprint from the sphere, a link between the future Terra and its pre-cataclysm past would be reestablished. Terra's past would be reattached to the time matrix grid, and Terra's future time cycles. Through the Sphere of Amenti, a bridge was constructed between Terra's pre-cataclysmic past and future tracks cycles of time. When a planet undergoes such a trauma, Having a portion of its grid blown apart, not only does it lose the portions of its evolutionary history stored within the cellular memory of the parts that blew apart, it also loses a portion of its energetic thrust. Without this thrust, the planet cannot evolve out of its harmonic universe and into the next. The planet and most life forms on it became trapped in the fabric of time. The sphere of Amenti not only gave hope for continued evolution of human transium lineage, it held the hopes of ascension and continued evolution for Earth, Terra, and their seventh dimensional counterpart, Gaia. Gaia is the third harmonic universe, and it holds the dimensions of 7, 8, and 9. If one was trapped in time, they would all be trapped. The only other option available in such cases of planetary morphogenetic field fragmentation is that of a host matrix transplant, and as previously discussed in relation to people, and this is exceedingly difficult to achieve on a planetary level. Each of the 12 planets in harmonic universe 1, which is the Milky Way galaxy, that emerged as a result of Terra's fragmentation, received a similar morphogenetic sphere from the Palladorians to fulfill the same purpose. But here we are only concerned with the sphere of Amenti, as though it, Earth, became an ascension planet, able to achieve dimensional ascension through re-evolution. The sphere of Amenti and soul ascension, rescue mission from Terra. The sphere of Amenti was entered into Earth's core within the second dimensional frequency band, often called the Cave of Creation, about 550 million years ago, from a position in harmonic universe 2, space-time, that existed before the Earth existed within harmonic universe 2, time track. The rescue mission for Terra's lost souls was begun before these souls became lost in terms of linear time. Such things are quite practical within the structure of the time matrix. Through the covenant of Pallador and the sphere of Amenti, the souls of the Earth could re-evolve back into their original 12-strand DNA body type. This process could be viewed as the Palladorians creating new bodies and morphogenetic blueprints for the now formless consciousness fragments of the fallen souls. The sphere of Amenti morphogenetic field allowed for the Uteranians to enter incarnational cycles on Earth, picking up the fragments of consciousness from the lost souls by pulling their energetic particles from the harmonic universe 1 unified fields into the DNA, merging the consciousness of the soul fragments with the embodied Uteraniate consciousness, thereby allowing the composite identity to evolve through a sentient life form back into its original soul matrix, the Terranism 12-strand prototype. This evolutionary plan was not immediately set in motion. Though the sphere of Amenti was set within Earth's morphogenetic field nearly 550 million years ago, the Earth grid had to evolve and pick up grid speed before the sphere of Amenti could begin birthing its new races. Between 250 and 550 million years ago, various other species seeded by harmonic universe 1 extraterrestrial visitors evolved on Earth, some of whom became members of our planet, animal, and insect kingdoms. Various groups of etheric beings without matter of density also spent time on our planet. The races of sphere of Amenti finally began to appear on Earth 250 million years ago. Before their appearance, more intergalactic wars were fought by races who did not want the covenant of Pallador to be fulfilled. These wars were primarily fought on Terra, becoming part of a long history of confrontations that were simply termed the Terran Wars. Once the Earth territory was secured, the Ur-Terranians, a sphere of Amenti, began birthing on Earth. This began what came to be known as the Terranism 2, or T2 experiment. This represented the seeding of the 12 tribes out of which our present human lineage has emerged. The halls of Amenti, the cloister races of parallel Earth, the Second World Rescue Mission Stage 1. From the sphere of Amenti, 5 smaller spheres were created, which became the morphogenetic patterns for 5 races known as the cloistered races. Collectively, the 5 cloister races were called the Palladorians, as they represent the beginning of the fulfillment of the Covenant of Pallador. They represented the earthly counterparts to the larger Palladorian groups of Harmonic Universe 2. Of the original Terranism 1, 12-strand DNA package, each Palladorian race held the morphogenetic imprint for DNA strands 7 through 12, which held the electrotonal frequency corresponding to dimensions 7 through 12, plus the imprint for strand 1. And each of the 5 groups carried the imprint for 1 additional DNA strand corresponding to the dimensions of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The cloisters served as guardians for the evolution of the additional DNA strand to which they were assigned. Each race had 8 strands of DNA manifest within their body structure. The 5 cloister races did not possess gender, nor did they originally possess the degree of matter density with which we are familiar to. Density of form developed over time throughout the course of their evolution on Earth between 250 million and 25 million years ago. The 5 cloister races were the Ur-Antrians and their brown skin strand number 2, the Brunawa red skin strand number 3, Hibaru white skin strand number 4, Melchizedek's yellow skin strand number 5, and the Uniceti black skin strand number 6. The cloister races populated the Earth for many generations, creating various racial mixtures through which many of the lost souls of Terra were able to ascend. This period of great civilization became known as the Second World within our present Native American cultures. So many of these souls ascended. Those who digress returned to the sphere of Amenti to rebirth on Earth in the particle universe as members of the root race. The first world represented original Terranism of cultures of Terra between 560 and 550 million years ago. The Palladorian cloister races left no remnants in our present world, where they evolved within the faster-moving time bands of Earth within the antiparticle universe. The morphogenetic fields of those races were then drawn into our particle Earth, and out of these came the next evolutionary stage. The first and second etheric root races of Gaia, Rescue Mission Stage 2. Before manifestation into embodiment on our Earth, the 5 cloistered races divided into 2 groups. One group held the DNA imprint for half of the first strand of DNA, and that one corresponds to Dimension 1 frequency. The other group held the remaining half of the first strand. This created polarization and gender within the cloistered race morphogenetic field. Both groups held the dimensional codes strands of 7 through 12. These 2 groups were seated on Gaia, the 7th dimensional harmonic universe 3 counterpart to Terra and Earth. These 2 races were the first 2 root races the Polarians of Gaia, and the Hyperboreans of Gaia antiparticle double. These beings were of a much less dense or etheric nature, but through their evolution on Gaia 25 to 20 million years ago, the pathways of evolution through dimensional ascension were reopened for the lost souls of Terra. These races anchored the morphogenetic fields of dimensions 7 through 12 into dimensions 1 on Earth. Through their evolution, the one strand of the 12-strand DNA package was pulled together in Earth's particles and connected to the Terranism morphogenetic field. The Halls of Amenti, Rescue Mission Stage 3. The morphogenetic consciousness of the 5 cloistered races held within the sphere of Amenti began the 3rd stage of seeding humans on Earth 25 million years ago. They opened the sphere of Amenti within the Earth's core in Dimension 2, which opened a portal bridge to Terra's core in Dimension 5, a portal that linked the Earth of 25 million years ago with a pre-cataclysm Terra of 550 million years ago. Working with the priesthoods of and Mu on Terra, the consciousness of the 5 cloistered races created 5 other portal bridge extensions from the center of the sphere of Amenti, each of the 5 opening into the dimensional fields 2 through 6. Dimensional fields represent positions in space-time within the time matrix, stages a planet or being will pass through in its evolutionary progression of dimensional ascension. The 6 portals from the sphere of Amenti and the original one to Terra's past, and 5 new ones in various stages of Earth's future, linked Terra's past through various time periods on Earth into Terra's future, creating a new track in time through which Earth could re-evolve into the 5th dimensional frequency band and merge with Terra. And once this merger was accomplished, Earth would become Terra. New lands would open up within and emerge upon Earth, and Terra would reclaim the energetic thrust lost in the fall, so evolution into the 7th dimensional Gaia could continue. The 6 portals in the sphere of Amenti also allowed the 5 cloistered races to incarnate into dimensional band time fields 2 through 6, pulling into their consciousness and body forms from the fragmented consciousness of the lost souls of each of those dimensional bands. The time codes, frequently patterns, from the 1st dimensional strand of the DNA that had been built up through the root races 1 and 2 would link into frequencies of dimensions 2 through 6. The consciousness within the sphere of Amenti would leave the morphogenetic field and express into manifestation as a root races within each of those dimensional bands, building up into the DNA pattern strand 2 through 6. Through this pattern of building DNA through time, incarnates within each time period dimensional band would be able to pull together the frequencies of their dimensional strand through a series of 24 incarnations in 2 cycles. And they link within the morphogenetic field of the cloistered race, pick up strands 7 through 12 from the cloister and pass through the other cloisters and pick up the remaining root race strands, rebundling the 12-strand DNA package. As the 12 DNA strands were assembled, the body form of the incarnate would progressively transmute into a less dense state and ascend into harmonic universe 2 on Terra. Originally, only one of Earth's body was needed for this process, as the form would assemble the DNA patterns within the 2 cycles in one very long lifetime and then transmute and ascend. The ascension occurred through the portal from the sphere of Amenti to which the incarnate's dimensional band time period was connected. Once passing through its dimensional portal into the sphere of Amenti, the incarnate could enter one of the other portal bridges and appear on Terra in a future space-time coordinate, becoming free of harmonic universe 1. Through this process, the consciousness of Terra's fragmented parts would be returned to Terra's planetary grid, piece by piece, progressively desensifying the matter particles of Earth and transmuting them back into Terra's grid. As the lost souls returned to Terra, so did the lost portions of Terra's morphogenetic field. Though the dynamics of this process are complicated, the principle is simple. The portals within the sphere of Amenti served as a time portal structure through which the lost substance energetic thrust of Terra could be returned, and the lost souls of Terra could return to their original identity as souls incarnated upon the planet Terra. In ancient Taran history, this planet had once, long ago, eons before 560 million years ago, Terranism seeding, been located within the first harmonic universe and had successfully evolved into the fifth dimension and second harmonic universe. The fall represented a portion of Terra being thrown back into its own past, through which it had to re-evolve in order for the planet to evolve into its natural future. The portals within the sphere of Amenti operated as a warp in time, through which re-evolution could take place more quickly. The human lineage is an intimate part of that re-evolutionary plan, and this plan is the underlying hidden dynamic and purpose for present human evolution. This plan is part of a larger Taran Gaian evolutionary plan, which ultimately will lead to all consciousness involved returning to its source. The sphere of Amenti contains the purposes and mechanics of humanity's evolutionary blueprint. The time portal structures within the sphere of Amenti regulate the processes of humanity's dimensional ascension, evolution, or return to God. The portals within the morphogenetic field of the sphere of Amenti are known as the halls of Amenti. They are the dimensional passageways one must pass through in order to ascend from Earth, out of the time matrix, and dimensionalized reality. The halls of Amenti have been a closely guarded secret since the time of our inception on Earth, and the priests of Ur and Mu, their earthly descendants, and the extraterrestrial and metaterrestrial ancestors of our Terranism lineage from the harmonic universes 2 through 5, have been the guardians of this secret since the time of its inception 550 million years ago.